Why did Iran claim to own Antarctica? Is Egypt preparing a designated area to receive Gazans? Did the Houthis finally manage to claim a ship? And who is behind the bombing of the Iranian gas pipelines and chemical plant? I'm Mati Shoshani, and this is everything that happened this week in our neighborhood. First, the Houthis published a rare piece of footage of a missile they claim to have launched at a US drone they have successfully shot down. An additional video allegedly shows a ship sinking that they also take credit for. The Houthis sure enjoy boasting about downing things out of the sky and the sea. They also claim sinking a British vessel and firing at another American aircraft in the same incident. In their statement, the Houthis reaffirmed solidarity with the Palestinian people and vowed continued operations until Israeli aggressions and the siege on Gaza are concluded. Of course, we all know the Houthis can't budget these complex military operations alone, and their Iranian patron foots the bill, and Iran's shady dealings could soon come back to haunt them, as we may discuss later. Meanwhile, the British maritime trade operations did report a ship evacuation after an explosion caused damage, likely referring to the same event, without identifying the name of the vessel. The crew was safely rescued, but the entire Red Sea region and Houthi firing range has become rather difficult, with Egypt absorbing a heavy economic impact from disrupted trade through the Suez Canal. Speaking of Egypt, at the Sinai border with Gaza, authorities started clearing a massive 13 square kilometer area in the last 48 hours, supposedly to host Gazans. The stated reason is to establish towering walls around the area to prevent infiltration attempts by Palestinians into Sinai or mainland Egypt. However, according to the Wall Street Journal, the real motivation is that Cairo fears an Israeli military operation in Rafah. To prepare for a potential influx of Gazan refugees, Egypt has hastily constructed this walled complex designed to accommodate up to 100,000 displaced people fleeing from Israeli forces. The governor of North Sinai denied this and claimed that those facilities are being built for citizens whose homes were affected by ISIS attacks. But the area and walls built seem excessive for those explanations. If ISIS had truly decimated housing for 100,000 individuals, it likely would have made news already. The barrier under construction is expected to host at least 1.5 million Gazans evacuated from border regions into makeshift seaside encampments, dangerously near the official line dividing Gaza and Egyptian Rafah. Egyptian contractors hired for construction projects in Gaza are now rapidly erecting these walls instead, bulldozing existing Bedouin villages in that area. Now, just when you think you've heard it all from the regime in Tehran, they remind us we haven't seen anything yet. This week, Iran reiterated prior territorial claims in Antarctica of all places. Their Navy chief announced last September that Iran plans to plant a flag over the South Pole and launch military and scientific missions on the frozen continent. Talk about a chill down your spine. But Iran's bizarre Antarctica aspirations resurfaced in headlines over the past week after Washington unlocked access to roughly $6 billion in Qatari funds for Tehran. Granting the sanctions relief raised eyebrows given Iran's role in orchestrating the October 7th attacks, murdering 30+ American citizens, and the deaths of 3 US soldiers last month from Iranian-backed militias. After all, the State Department guaranteed the money is meant strictly for purchasing humanitarian goods like food, medicine, and agriculture equipment, not funding of Iranian military adventurism around Arctic habitats and wildlife. Now for the mystery of the week, also tied to Iran, of course. Early Wednesday, around 1 a.m. local time, puzzling attacks struck critical gas pipelines near Isfahan and a petrochemical plant in Kharam al-Bakhtiari, impacting at least 5 Iranian provinces. Initial assessments suggest the blast disabled around 15% of Iran's natural gas supply. The New York Times reported last night that Israel executed the attack, though no formal claim of responsibility has been issued. But perhaps this disruption will have average Iranians questioning how their regime still finances Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis while unable to furnish domestic gas for heating, electricity, and industry. You see, in recent months, additional assassinations eliminating Revolutionary Guard officers in Syria, managing Shiite militias, or aiding Hezbollah were also attributed to Israel. So while this attack might not restrain Iran, it delivers economic impact hampering the regime's capability to provide basic living standards for over 83 million citizens. With growing recognition that convicting Iranian commanders doesn't impede regional terrorism sponsored by Tehran, it seems that whoever did this chose wider civilian infrastructure and living conditions, hoping to ignite protests against the Ayatollah and mullahs. And given Iran's continued threats against Israel's very existence while building a nuclear weapons program, this likely isn't over. The Jewish state has so far refrained from crippling Iran's oil and gas industry, the beating heart of its economy. But this attack seems to say, hey, we're capable of doing this and more. So much for this week. I'm Mati Shoshani. Please continue to follow us to find out what God is doing in our neighborhood. And I hope you live in a calmer neighborhood than ours. Like we always say, you cannot understand God's plan without understanding what's happening in the Middle East. And you can't understand Israel without understanding this neighborhood.